Hello everyone and welcome back. So there's something I've been wanting to look at for a while now and I haven't yet. I looked at some mini disc stuff about 2 or 3 years ago. It's been a lot more time than I thought it was. But I have another mini disc Walkman I would like to look at and show you guys. Now this is a NetMD Walkman, which we'll get to that eventually. It is an MZ-NE410 and this was available in North America, so that's how I got a hold of it. And it supports MPLP, or MDLP, I'm sorry. There were some later codecs or formats of the 8-track codec that were made for mini discs. I'm not going to go into details on that in this video. We're just going to look at this mini disc Walkman, and hopefully at some point I'll get over to that and we'll make a whole video about different parts of the mini disc series. But let's take a basic overview of it. Right now I don't have any batteries in it. It does use a AA battery. So we'll stick one of those in there. This one should be charged. And it is. There is a little LED screen on it to kind of show you all the basic information, and then if a track is labeled, it will tell you like it is right now. I'm also not really going to be playing much songs off of it just because of the nature of that. I might use some Dan Mason tracks, but it's very basic. You have the menu buttons for the groups if you have different folders. They do different functions and deal with the display controls, cancel, stop, display. Then you have volume up and down. You have the pause, the play button. You have the back track, the forward track, and you have the stop button. So we can hit stop and cancel. On the side, we have three important things. Here is the mini USB port on the side, which we'll use to connect later. I'll show you guys that. That goes into the whole NetMD thing. So NetMD Walkmans are basically Walkmans you could plug into a computer and copy files over from what was usually Sonic Stage back in the day, which we're not going to be using this video, to the mini discs themselves. We have the standard hold function, which if that's locked into place, then the buttons do nothing. So if you have it in your pocket and you don't want it to be bumped against anything or anything gets messed up, you would just hold that. We're going to disengage it right now. Standard headphone jack size. This one does not have a remote control function like some. You got all the basic info on the back, and on the other side we do have the open button, which we can see a recordable mini disc that I have. We'll plug that in. So, I did say you could copy music to this through a computer. The old program that you would use in Windows was Sonic Stage. That's not as super friendly with modern versions of Windows, and neither are the drivers for these things because they were mostly made in like the late 90s to early 2000s. So like Windows XP, even Windows 7 could handle them well if you get some custom ones out there. Later versions of Windows 10 and Windows 11 are not as friendly with the drivers. But there is a modern alternative to that. So what we'll be doing is using my old Mac Mini, because this is a lot easier with Mac OS. We don't have to worry about drivers in the traditional sense. We can just use Mac OS as built-in things to communicate. We're going to plug this in, and I'll show you a nice little tool online that doesn't involve installing anything. Okay, so now that we have the Mac Mini going, we'll go to a website called web.minidisc.wiki. It sounds like a wiki, but I guess it's directly related to the Minidisc Wiki, but this whole website will run code that you don't have to install anything. You can just put stuff on your Minidisc. They do got some patch notes, so as of the time of this recording, they're on version 1.4.2. I don't know when that will change. Please do not ask me about future iterations. I'm just showing you that this is a thing. And we can connect. So, I have a Sony mini USB cable. I'm not sure if this one came with a camera, another Sony device in the late 80s, or late 80s, late 90s. USB didn't exist in the 80s. So all we gotta do is plug it in, and then if it will read it, we'll see it flash PC to MD on the screen, and we should be able to connect on the Mac Mini. So there it is, NetMD Walkman. We're able to connect. And, oh, there's new info here. So this is a warning because it looks like I've inserted a disc that does have write protection on it. There's little tabs on rewritable Walkmans on the side if you want to lock it and not accidentally record or delete anything. We'll just hit OK. And as you can see, I already copied over a bunch of Dan Mason tracks. Dan Mason is an artist that's friendly with using his music in videos, so that's one of the reasons I did that. I also like his music. You have the Mori album on there. You can also see info down here in the corner and play it from the mini disc to your computer. At least I thought so. Guess that's changed. But you can basically control it from here. What we're going to do is swap over to another mini disc that I don't think has copy protection on. Now, this is a little weird some points. Like, I did that. I don't think it turns it off, but it might disconnect. So, I'll put in this gold mini disc. And it's not disconnecting. When I did a previous version of this build of this website, or software, however you want to refer to it, it did disconnect whenever I did that. Right now we have Princess of the Golden Experience. That's an album I recommend for those that like it. And I don't think that's all the songs on it. So, if that's the case, we have a simple command, wipe disk. And that will wipe it. It won't completely finish writing it until you end the connection. And what we'll do is copy over some Dan Mason. So we'll take, I'm not going anywhere. And make sure you have a battery that's plugged in that has plenty of life. I tried this before with some rechargeable batteries that are basically dead. You can do the standard play, which I suggest. You can have it just mono mode, which is just one, no stereo connection. And then there's later codecs like LP2, LP4, which would be a more compressed version of the 8-track codec. I'm simplifying, and I'm not going to go into details on that. We'll use the file name for the naming mechanic. There are advanced options. Enable fold width. You can normalize the track volume, use replay gain, affect the decibels. We'll leave it at default and just hit OK. So what it does is it can do this with both FLACs and MP3s, luckily. FLACs are a lossless codec. MP3s are a codec that a lot of people have used that are compressed. And what it will do is upload to the website, convert it over, and then once it's done converting it, it will start uploading to the Walkman itself. So you see both these progresses. You can also set up notifications to notify you when it's done. You do have to do some OS settings in Mac OS, I believe, so I haven't bothered with that. And we'll let this just kind of sit and do its thing. Alright, now that we have that done, what I'm going to do is change the name of the mini disc to the album. So you have a few ways to do it if I don't keep triple clicking. Do that, and you can also enter the full width name for full width characters. I'm not going to go into the details of what full width characters are. If you know, you know. If you don't. So, we do have another few options. There's retro mode, which is in beta. There's about, change logs, enable homebrew, ripping. You can export info on the titles, song recognition, rename the disc. I don't know what features they'll be planning to make and which ones they won't. We can exit out. That will disconnect the mini disc. We'll do that. We'll hit stop, and once it hits stop, it's going to edit, and it's going to finish writing all the info to the disc. So, we're done. We can unplug it, and now we have a mini disc with a Dan Mason album on it. So when I bought this on eBay a while ago, it wasn't too expensive. I don't remember exactly what I paid, but if we can bring up current sales, I don't think this one goes for too much at the moment. It is definitely one that if you're interested in buying mini disc Walkmans at all or getting into mini discs at all, I feel like this is a nice entry level compared to some of the other ones. If we look at all the eBay sold listings, it is up in price since I bought it, but it's going from like 60 and up. There are far worse you can do to get entry level ones, and I doubt these will go down in value much just because they've quit making them for well over a decade or so now. Most of these models are over 20 years old, And we're not going to be getting new ones, really, to be honest. I don't think anybody's going to make a third-party mini disc Walkman or a equivalent of modern parts at all. That's just something that I do not see in the future. But it's a very neat little format. I've seen other people call it as a like a retro faux futuristic device. It never really took on in the Americas, but throughout Eurasia, it's pretty neat. So I hope that gives you an idea of what this mini disc Walkman is like. I will actually be playing some music off of it for the outro. So I'm going to clear this out. I hope you guys enjoyed. I do want to thank everybody that started liking and following me and commenting and subscribing to the channel. It's growing a lot faster than I thought, so I think I'm going to reach my one goal. So let's exit this.
Could be